Hello and welcome to the An Amazing Podcast. This is Demon Hunter 3969D.
This is Modi.
This is three goblins in a trench coat, level 2 mage, Matt.
And we are talking about Solo Leveling, a new anime adapted from a Korean webtoon, if I am not mistaken. Right, Modi?
I think it's actually I think there there is a webtoon, but I think the original source is like a web novel. I think I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure. So I think it was like a web novel, then they made a webtoon adaptation, and now they made an anime.
Oh god, this makes too much. Okay, this makes too much sense.
This is gonna be a fun episode.
Okay, yeah. Let's just get into it. What's your problem with Solo Leveling?
Okay, I'll start this off. So I've watched the first 4 episodes, and I'll say this: I see why it's very popular, but at the exact same time, I'll also say that there is definitely some writing talent. I think Matt, just an amazing lore for you. This is the 3rd Korean anime we have reviewed.
Yeah.
First being Tower of God, which, oh my god, that was horrible. Second one was God of High School, which was really awesome until it was really mid, until it was absolutely dog shit. And now we're at Solo Leveling. So I'll go ahead and get my thoughts out real quick. First episode, god awful. Really freaking hated it. It is the first. If I wasn't watching this for the podcast, I probably wouldn't continue watching it. I don't like. So for me, like I said, I can definitely see why this is popular, and I'll get into it later. But for me, I thought the world building was boring and a little shallow. I hate the magic system. I think it's very uninteresting, and I think the fact that in this world you awaken powers and you can't level up or grow after that completely nerfs a lot of the interest I would have in all the other characters, because again, we know that's it for them. They're all essentially just NPCs. They aren't humans. They don't develop. They can't grow. So I thought that was very wind-sucking, sucked the sails out of it for me. And I did not like the main character. Like, his entire personality, that first episode was like, man, I'm so weak. I hate being weak. I'm the weak one. I'm the lowest rank ever. And it's like, it drives me crazy because, like, you take a character like Deku from My Hero, and it's like, yeah, he's the bottom rung of society. He's the weakest, but that wasn't his entire personality. You could take that out and you would still have a character. Like, if you took out, like, him being the weakest, I feel like you would not have any character. And then from there, again, I think the monster designs were boring. I really wish they got a little bit more creative with the world building, because, like, all these portals are popping up, monsters are jumping out all around. I would really love to see, like, instead of just old medieval weapons, they actually took the time and, like, redesigned or designed their own, like, futuristic or modern day equivalent to that kind of stuff, to, like, swords, knives, etc., etc. Or the fact that this is, like, a Korean property, maybe have more Korean historical weapons too. And I'm trying to think after that. I do think the writing for this is pretty solid. I really like that main character, Kun. He is a very active protagonist, and I do like how it is his choices that are pushing the story along. But aside from that, first episode did not impress me very much.
Okay. I guess I'll just give my overall thoughts. I think, I love Solo Leveling. I think it's so good, and it's actually pretty funny because when I first heard about Solo Leveling years back, and people were hyping it up so much. They were like, oh, it's so good, so good. I totally disregarded it purely just because of the name, like Solo Leveling. It seems like the type of thing I would absolutely hate. Cause yeah, it just seems like what's the word for this? Like just your most basic bare bones clickbait story.
Power
Like, you know,
fantasy.
just like yeah. But I mean, but it works, and it's true. The premise is very basic, but the execution is so well done. I love the main character. What's his name? Jing Woo Sung.
Yeah.
I think he's really good because even though he's weak, I just love characters who, even though they're weak, they still get in the ring, right? And they keep fighting. And he does it for noble reasons, right? He's doing it for his family. And even though he's weak, he's obviously very brave. Like every single time he's in a stressful situation, he reacts very bravely. So I appreciate that about his character. I generally don't really like what's the word? The dungeon concept. I don't even play games like that. But I think if you can make it into like an interesting underdog story, then I can get behind it, and that's why I'm behind it here. I really enjoyed the I think they make it much more interesting than I would expect. Like I would expect it to be like a monster of the week type of thing where they have these I don't know, I guess boring battles is what I would expect. But I like the fact that like the that dungeon that they got trapped in with like, you know, the big god statue, it was like a puzzle that you had to solve. I think that adds like a lot more interest to it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's hype. I guess if I had to say, like, distill it down to the core of what I like about this is that it's a very well done underdog story. It seems like. So yeah.
I will agree that.
What about you, Matt? Oh,
Yep, sorry.
No, you get your thoughts out first.
I was gonna say, I think after watching the first 4 episodes of this, I think for me, if I could be really honest, I think this is a very uninteresting premise, but I think it has I think it is really well executed after the first episode.
Okay. So I'm gonna be the more like middle of the road take. But it's like I enjoyed it decently enough. I actually I think to be fair, I only watched 2 episodes. But I do think the first episode was my favorite.
Wow.
Because I agree. I really actually like them getting into a puzzle. And I thought that, because I feel like anime kind of has this problem where you'll have a character, they're super underleveled, and that'll be the first like premise, and then they'll be like, oh, well, Deku gets to eat a piece of All Might's hair, and then just becomes this like super strong. And I think the first episode was a good display of like, okay, he's able to solve this puzzle because he is used to having to scrape by, is used to having to like pay close attention to every little detail in the dungeon because every little thing could easily kill him. And I think it's like a sort of an interesting way to use his perspective to show how he would have an advantage over like normal hunters, is because he spends his whole life like only surviving through his wits. And I thought like each of the sort of, I did think some of the characters acted dumb in that episode, but like I still liked how they were able to get out of that. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I also, okay, so that made me remember something else that I really like about it. I think it's realistic in terms of the way the characters' motivations, the way they behave, and also in terms of the way that this is integrated into the world. So the fact that, sure, we don't understand yet what these portals are that allow you to randomly go into a video game dungeon, right? I'm assuming that's probably going to be like a mystery that's going to be explained later on. But I like the fact that from there, the author of this created like an interesting system that combines the motivations of like a real world person with this fantasy element. So like there's like a whole economy around it. Like there's people who pretty much make careers out of it, and they can make money doing it. And I like how that bleeds into the situations that how they deal with situations when they're in the dungeons, how they treat each other. Like if it's just a video game and the stakes maybe aren't that high, like even in Sword Art Online, people are going to act more noble, and they're going to be like kind of like an avatar of themselves, right? Whereas in this, they're bringing their real world motivations in there, like, oh, I have to make money for my wife who's pregnant or whatever, right? So they're going to act realistic. When there's a player on your team, like the main character who's really bad, you're not going to like try to be noble and try to like, help him out and all that. You're going to be like, you're dead weight, and, I'm going to take I'm going to kill this monster, but I'm also going to take the money because I'm the one doing this. Another small aspect of that is also, I just like the fact that they don't wear costumes. Although in the very opening scene, we saw like the very high level people wore like armor and stuff like that. But I like that they kind of just go in regular clothes. What else? Yeah, I like the fact that I think it's very well. Oh yeah, the other thing I was going to say about what you said. Yes, some of the characters act stupidly, but I don't think they act stupid in an unrealistic way. Yeah, like I feel like when like you get into a very dangerous situation like that and the panic takes over you, it's for a lot of people it's hard to think rationally. So yeah, I like that. I think it does all of that really well.
No, that like especially because like the way they got into that situation, I thought was pretty good, being like, okay, so we're in a really easy dungeon, and like a lot of them are like sort of mid-level, low level, and then they push like a little too far, and then they get to like something really unexpected and are just trapped in this like super high level dungeon room, when most of them are there just to like with the perception of, oh, this is really easy, this is like a really like quick buck. To kind of almost reply to what Dee said earlier, like I think it also shows that like they had a B class healer, but like that doesn't matter if you're just like unable to do anything because you're stricken with fear. To where it's like you still have like a bullshit like awakening system or whatever, and you can't like level up from that. But I appreciate characters being able to like make the best of their situations, and I don't mind there being like a bit of a like unfairness to it.
Oh, and that reminds me of another thing.
Yeah.
That kind of goes to what Dee said about how they can't level up. I don't think they can't. Okay, so I think maybe the scope of like the challenges they can handle, like if you're a level D or whatever, you can only go to D dungeons. But I don't think that within that you can't get better and level up within that. I think that all that limits you to is maybe the scale of disaster that you might be exposed to. But if it's all relative, then I don't think it really matters. Like if a D monster is just as dangerous to a D fighter that as an A monster is to an A fighter, I think you could still make it like, I don't think the actual power levels actually determines how interesting you could make the fighting and the idea of like getting stronger within that. And then especially like you said, Matt, if you take into account like personalities, depending on the personality, like you said, Juhi, who's a B level healer, is going to D and E dungeons. You might have some people who just through their tenacity are able to like handle more than you might expect, like a D who's able to handle a C or something like that, you know. So I don't know, I think since that's all relative and it functions relatively, I think you could like, there isn't really an issue in terms of like making it interesting in terms of the powering up.
See, for me, I'm looking at it as like from a shonen kind of standpoint, because the way I'm kind of seeing it is like, it's like if in One Piece, Usopp and Zoro stayed the exact same power level they were at like the first arc all the way up to like chapter 1000. So I'm kind of seeing it as a world where Luffy is, for me it feels like it's setting up a world where like if this was One Piece, Luffy would be the only person growing and power and scope, while everyone else around him just stayed the same.
Okay, let's use that example, right? Usopp and Zoro. Yes, it's true that they don't stay at the same power level from 1 to 1,000, but relatively, they do stay at the same power level. Like, the gap between Usopp and Zoro is pretty much still the same. Like, Zoro's still way, 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 way stronger, but that doesn't mean that Usopp doesn't still end up having, like, climactic fights and things like that. It's just at his level, relative to his level. So I think in terms of, like, the storytelling, it doesn't lose interest. Now, I think it becomes a problem if you have, like, if one of the main character, if, like, a main character, his goal has to do with getting stronger, is directly tied to that, like Luffy and Zoro, then that becomes a problem, because then how are they going to actually be able to, like, become the strongest if they can't surpass whatever the relative levels are? But I mean, I guess in this case, since he ends up getting this thing where that's going to allow him to surpass that, it's not going to be a problem. But yeah,
I feel like this is such a I feel like this conversation is mainly relevant to, like, shonen stuff or anything similar to it, because it's like I feel like with most shows, as far as, like, the tools that a character have are going to be pretty consistent. It's not like John Wick gains, like, a power up each thing he does. Like, it's more so like the way that you would use a tool that would give you more like creativity or experience on how to do it. And, like, the way I see it is, I do think they're stuck at a base power level. And I think I think the show is kind of going for, like, a more shonen approach. So, like, in that sense, I can see how it's a little bit, like, stiff, but I feel like with, like, most other shows, you can do, like, a lot of interesting stuff with a character who is, like, relatively weak, but still able to use their, like, wits or their, like, experience to, like, outsmart, like, a more powerful opponent. Like, a lot of movies and shows do that kind of stuff, where it's like the opposition's so insanely powerful, but they're still able to, like, get by through the power of, like, I don't know, fucking friendship or something, you know?
I will say they throw that whole, like, underdog thing out the window pretty quickly by episode 3. No, he becomes the special at episode 3.
I don't think so. Because I thought I would agree with you, but I think they did it in such a clever way, because I guess this is kind of a spoiler for you, Matt.
It's fine.
The fact that he has to train relentlessly every day, and, like, and they show him, like, the challenges he has to go through, like that mini dungeon he had to do, like, in the train station, right? I think that makes it very worthwhile. Like, it's not just he gets this instant power up, you know? So, like, you see him actually having to work hard to get whatever power levels he does. And it's not like he's going straight from D to A. He's going straight from D to, like, high D or something, you know? So I don't know. I don't think it's like I said, I think it's all done very well. It's like the execution on it is very good, I think.
I agree. I think it had a rough start. I think episode 2 is definitely one of my favorites. Well, I definitely think episode 2 is way better than episode 1, just because it really highlights all of his talents, and it does kind of, like, create a very interesting, like, puzzle scenario. And I do think, like, even though I hate to say it, but I was kind of, like, going into this with a mindset of, like, oh, look at all these blood bags surrounding the main character. I can't wait. I'm so glad they're all 12 weeks from retirement, you know? But I think the way they were able to... I think that entire statue set piece was very interesting. But... And again, the next 2 episodes had a lot of really good action. I think they had a lot of really good character stuff. But the fact that it's all through a gacha game system gives me such PTSD and makes my stomach churn.
Wait, explain that, because I don't really play gacha games, so I don't understand.
So the way gacha games sort of psychologically manipulate you into, like, playing them forever is they give you daily quests. So they give you which are things that are, like, super easy, super, like, quick to pull off. So it builds up that dopamine hit, so you can get that one loot box.
Okay,
and the fact that, like, I could see that really easily. I hate that so much. I was, like, thinking to myself,
to be fair, it's not like it's easy.
but
the
still,
stuff he has to do on a daily basis. It's not easy.
oh no, that's like objectively, I think it's perfectly fine. But the fact that
Oh, it just gives you like PTSD.
yeah, and I hate how normalized it treats it. Like imagine your mother's life being hidden behind a loot box. That just sounds like I hate loot boxes so much, and the fact that this is a game, this show is literally has them as a mechanic is just like,
Yeah.
oh god, this is disgusting.
Yeah, I can see that. In a way, I get it. Like, it's kind of cringy, the fact that they took like this gaming system and they really like someone really had not the wild idea, but like it's an idea that you would expect. How do I put it? It's like something that I'm not surprised someone did it, but I'm surprised someone did it and it worked. You know,
I'm disappointed that it works.
Yeah,
I'm not. I can't tell. It's not quite disappointment, but it is like quiet sadness. Like, man, this is how ingrained this is into our society.
This is society now. This is this is the world we live in. Mm-hmm. This is the #1 anime of this season.
Again, I just hate, like, again, also, like, I hate the whole aspect of like game UI stuff in like the fantasy kind of stuff.
I can get that.
Like, I don't know, because it feels a little cringe to me.
I feel like anime has always done this kind of like really gamifying how their like show works. But I think this is like something that's like very directly like, oh, his life is just like a video game.
Yeah.
And
it's way more in your face with this one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, and I think that's the intention is that like, okay, well, he's suddenly like, we've literally thrusted him. He's like the video game character. He has like quests. He has like, they literally have the difficulty bar being different colors, like they would in video games. Like, what if this character had a UI for like how to like max out his shit?
I think I just understood what the real actual true appeal of this is this series is probably for like all the people who wish their life could literally be this, like they could literally live life like a video game. I'm sure this is
living in
like
a gacha game. That
demographic, yeah, exactly. That demographic is like who this is literally made for. You know, I'm sure
totally.
The author is that person actually. Like, it all makes sense now. That's what it is. It's kind of like how Sword Art Online was, you know, except on crack.
Yes.
I have a little. I hope it would be fun if the show was brave enough to show how like bad this kind of system could be for you, and that like his life could have potentially been better not using it. Because I'm also imagining a show where it's like a completely normal modern like life thing, but then a loser gets like a UI element to like improve his life, like it's a fucking video game, and then like discovers all the downsides that come from that.
Yes,
I think that would be fun. But it's just me like
I feel like that
stuff. But yeah,
that's probably like the subversion that we're gonna get like 5 years later once this genre is just totally played out. We're gonna get that, but just not quite yet.
I want that now though. I wanted that subversion with the show.
Also, and this is another issue I had with world building. If he was so incredibly weak, how much money was he really bringing in?
Yes. Okay. You're so right. This is something I thought too, which is that like, are there really no better ways to make money, bro? Like, is this really like your best path to making? Like, how much money are you making from like all these failed dungeons and like spending weeks in the hospital? Like, maybe you should just get a desk job. Like, it's okay, you know?
Because my other thing is that like, okay, if you assuming that like becoming a hunter does like give you a magical like physicality boost. If you're really that weak, why don't you just become a blue collar worker? Like stay at like. Can you imagine how effective you would be at like a manual labor job? Heck, just go DoorDash and just run around the dang city just delivering stuff. Because like when I think about it, is like they established that A, he's not bringing in very much revenue. B, he has to pay money for weapons, and C, he has hospital bills. So, like, how much of this money is even going towards his mother and his sister?
So, if this world is, like, if this is being rationally written, then we have to assume, and I'm not willing to make this assumption necessarily, but if it's being rational, then we have to assume that being a low tier failed hunter makes you more money than like being a cashier or something, which I kind of doubt because it seems like he's really just not making anything.
Maybe it's the benefits. Like maybe he gets like a joint healthcare benefit for being a hunter, and that's like how his mother's been going by. I do think what I thought initially the plot was going to be was that like the dungeon level that you go into is like based on the average of your party. So he was like popular to bring along because he's such a low rank that the rank in the dungeon lowers, and he can go with like S tier hunters or whatever and just like clear it out pretty easily because he's like weighting the average down. That's what I thought they were going with, but they didn't, which is fine.
They would have been way smarter though. That's the other thing. Is like, after the second episode where he gets his like, when he like gets all for like, what was it, one for all or some shit like that, where the UI pops up.
Yeah.
All of his entire motivation is like, I'm not gonna let anyone make fun of me. I'm gonna become stronger. Right. I'm gonna be the strongest. So no one like, what happened to your mom, dude?
It is a motivation. Like the plot of the first episode, I think, definitely changed after the second, which isn't like too like bad. It's just because what I was gonna say is after the second episode, because I thought I was expecting something different from the first episode, and when I didn't get it, I was like a little bit disappointed. But I am still like curious about what they're going to end up doing with like this like new plot essentially of him like leveling up. Like I'm curious.
I want you to tell me, how were you able to not watch episode 3 after that cliffhanger on episode 2? Like, there was nothing that was going to stop me from clicking the next episode. How did you do that?
What was the cliffhanger again? Doesn't he just like destroy that one monster and walks away?
Oh no, that is episode 3.
Oh, okay, yeah, I watched episode. I didn't watch episode 4. Yeah, okay.
Oh, okay, all right, okay, good. That makes sense.
Yeah,
because I was like some of these are like Attack on Titan level cliffhangers. Like I'm just like. Yeah.
Well, because I watched.
For me, when I saw,
sorry, go on.
When I saw him die, I was like, "Oh wow, he got killed. Now he has solo leveling powers. Let's go."
Yeah. But I want to see what happens next. Like, okay, now he's gonna, come back to life and all that.
But that's the thing. Like, I will say, like, this feels like the Family Guy of anime because, it's not. I don't feel like it's anything too super creative, but I think it's just so well executed and. I feel like it's executed with way more dignity than something like Sword Art Online or a lot of other like light novel shows. Mm-hmm. Like, because I appreciate the whole him having to train and him having to like actually work for his powers instead of just being like, oh, I'm my super overpowered game character that I leveled up off screen.
Yeah,
super awesome. And I think like a lot of sequences of him fighting the wolves, him like being forced to like. Did you notice the One Punch Man reference?
No.
I loved it so much. So, like, when he gets this, like, first daily quest, it's, like, 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats. And it's literally the same workout from, like, One Punch Man.
Oh, and the 10 kilometers. Yeah, that's true. I didn't catch that. Yeah, that's true.
Listen, okay. If by the end of the season, the main character loses all of his hair, takes up an orange jumpsuit, and a small red cape, I would name this the greatest anime in history of man.
This is One Punch Man origin story.
Yes.
Pretty cool.
It's Solo Punch Man.
I feel like as soon as he got the leveling up power, it was like pretty clear though that this was going to be like most other anime where it's like now the character is like extremely powerful. And I feel like that's going to kind of... I feel like a lot of more enemies are going to come to, like, just grinding and, like, killing shit a lot. Yeah.
Is it weird?
I mean, I think he is going to become extremely powerful, but I don't think he's anywhere near that yet.
Like, in episode 3, he one-shot that one thing. And I know that's just one encounter, but, like...
Which one?
The one that...
Are you sure you didn't get to episode 4?
Did I get to episode 4?
Wait, okay, he one shot. Say it again. I missed it.
Okay, so there's the one that the bunch of the lower tier hunters are struggling with, and then he just comes
wasn't that
in.
episode 4?
Was that episode
Oh, it
4?
was episode 4.
Oh, okay, maybe I did watch
you,
that.
you love solo leveling. You didn't even realize it.
Okay, well there we go. Maybe I do have as much as you guys did.
Yeah, but okay, so yeah, that's my point. Like he one-shotted that. Well, okay, they were working on it, but
That's true.
it was still like a level D or something, right? Something like that. Or E.
Yeah.
Probably not E. I think it was like D.
Yes. But couldn't you keep just grinding till you eventually get to like S level and just fucking build up
Yes.
all your stats?
I guarantee you,
Yeah.
like,
He could.
this is, like, I will say, okay, first thing, I'm really sick of anime characters being the special. I'm
Yeah.
so tired of, like, characters being like, oh, you're like, you're the king, you're the descendant of the king of the pirates, and blah, blah, blah. Like,
But that's
I
not
really-
this. This is the exact opposite. Like
No,
he
he
earned
is
that.
special.
He's still special. He's still the special.
He earned that. He literally earned that through his
the
courage.
hair. Deku also earned the hair for like All Might liking
He-
his courage.
He earned this way more than I'm not disagreeing that Deku
Yeah.
earned what he got, but he earned this way more than Deku did, because Deku earned it just through moving All Might's heart, right? He earned it literally
By
through
getting his ass kicked?
sacrificing himself, letting everyone else go, like literally giving his life, right? Showing his bravery, being the one to figure out the puzzle, you know? That's as earning it as it gets. Like there's no
yes.
he's not special. I mean, he's special in the fact that he has the character trait of being brave, but I don't think that I wouldn't count that against any character.
No, well, what I'm saying is I'm tired of, like, shows introducing an underdog character in this magical world and not, like, following through with it. Like, I feel like I would have enjoyed it a lot better if he stayed, like, level E, but he learned how to, like, grow, use strategy, and, like, climbed his way up to, like, fighting the big bosses without getting, like, the super ultra overpowered special thing that no one else in the world presumably has.
I agree with D. Like, do Mashal, but not shit. Be like, fuck your system or whatever. I'm gonna figure out my ways around it and how to like cheat it and how to like just kind of like if you play a game, right, and like you're figuring you can like you beat a boss with a way that definitely wasn't intended, or like a more out of the outside the box type method.
Yes.
That I feel like that would have been interesting. And again, that's not the show that this is, so it's like not fair for me to criticize it
Right.
not being this show. I'm just saying after episode 2, even though he earned it, we are returning to like, okay, he's going to quickly outpower everybody, and I feel like that's where this is going.
I completely disagree. I think like he not only did he earn it, like he had to earn the power like just straight up. But even now, it's not like he's just jumping levels. He has to grind every single day to get to the level. He deserves every single bit of it. Like, yeah, I completely disagree. Like,
Yeah.
I think he's I don't see any sort of like he's treated special. Like, there's no. I feel like the author specifically went out of his way so that no one could say like he's a chosen one type thing.
But he
you know, or
is.
something
He's the
like
only person. He's the only person in the world who has this ability. Like,
But how did he get it? How did he get it?
What about, like, the reason I'm
It's
saying
not like
that,
Naruto with the 9 tails.
Well,
you know,
the reason I'm saying that is if he was anywhere else but that situation, he would not have gotten those abilities. Like, if he would not be like the
But
special
if he
hero.
wasn't him,
I was saying,
Yeah.
like, if he wasn't in that exact. So, okay, let me rephrase this. I'm not saying he didn't earn it or anything. I think my issue is, well, let me rephrase it or rethink it. I think this is much better than most power fantasy shows. I definitely do feel like he does earn it. I think where my issues are coming from is it feels like a very title drop, a very solitary show, and I'm kind of interested to see where it goes because they have this set up where he's like the only person who has this ability. Like, he's the only person who can level up. He's the only person who can grow. So it feels like a lot of his character development and a lot of his like journey is going to be on his own. So I'm really interested to see how that kind of follows through. I will say yeah, I am tired of like the whole, oh, you get the super special chosen one power. Let's go. I do kind of like, I do have a preference for shows where the main character has the same like baseline as everyone else, but he figures out a way to climb out of it and not just be gifted and out.
What would be that way of climbing out of it for you? Your preferred way of seeing that character climb out of it?
Okay, so think of like a thing like, let's say like Rambo goes.
Wait, hold on. Before you do that, I
Yeah.
just want to hear what
D says.
what are you looking for in terms of how to climb out of it? Climb out of it.
just like don't like take like instead of being handed a overpowered card, using the cards he was already given and figuring out different ways of using it. Like I think my favorite parts about this whole section was him like using the skills he learned from being the weakest to basically problem solve, figure out different solutions and all that kind of stuff. I don't have a real big issue with him like being the special, but I do feel like I don't know. I'm trying to figure out like my exact thoughts of it because I really want to see how the show sort of handles. I want to see how it sort of handles like characters and escalation because I definitely feel like this feels like a story that will inevitably revolve around this singular character. Even with like his whole hero's journey of him like leveling up solo, I really hope it doesn't go I really want to see how other people sort of catch up or try to keep up with him, you know?
Okay, I think I would agree with that on that point that yes, if it, like you said earlier, if it just becomes like a solitary journey of him just grinding and getting stronger and like, you know, one-shotting bosses, yeah, that'll be boring. I do want to see there be competition with other people. True, I agree with that. And other people who are able to improve too. Because if he's the only one who's able to improve and everyone's staying stagnant, I agree that would be boring. But here's what I would say about the whole special thing. I think there is no avoiding if you have a story where the main character is trying to become like the strongest or the best or, you know, in some way, there is no avoiding that main character being special. The only question is, in what way will that character be special? And you can have the character be special in unearned, annoying ways, or you can have that character be special in interesting and earned ways, right? And I think he is special in a definitely an earned way and an interesting way, as opposed to some other characters like, you know, Naruto. So yeah, but yeah, in terms of the special thing, I think you just can't avoid it. It's just how it's done, and I would say it's done well. But I agree with you that if he ends up being the only one who can improve, and there's no like rivalries and competition and stuff like that, it'll become boring very quickly.
Because I am afraid that the only like challenge, like there won't be any like character challenges. I'm worried that it's all going to be him going up against like the really big like personality-less bosses and everything, like that giant snake and everything.
I think something that's annoying to me about like a lot of anime is like how kind of number crunchy it is, to where it's like, okay, well, we're fighting a B class hero, but I'm only like a C class hero. But oh, maybe actually he's like an S class hero, and if I can survive exactly 10 black flashes, so I have to calculate, like, oh, if I get hit by 9, I'm all right. I don't know. It's just, like, really... Or like, Jogo being like, I'm about, like, 5 Sukuna fingers strong. And it's like... I feel like there's something that's more... Like, if you have like, a character who's like, okay, one character is getting hunted down by, like 5 different people, right? And, how number crunching wise that one person should die realistically from the 5 people, but how do they get around like that one person just purely using whatever like skills or like maybe he's like more knowledgeable about the area, or like a fucking like Rambo situation, right? and
Yeah.
like able to like wipe out those 5 people against like odds that are against him. Or like you take something like the Predator, where it's like here you have this like highly technological alien that by all rights should kill them. How are the characters going to outsmart this thing based on like what they can perceive to defeat it? And that's kind of the vibe. That's what I got from episode 1. Episode 2 changed that, and I think that's completely fine. I'm just saying, like, man, I wish I got the more of the episode 1 stuff. Which we might.
You would love JoJo's. You would love JoJo's so much.
What do you think? I don't mind the show shifting to that direction. That was just like, oh, that's a direction I didn't think that. That's the direction that I would have liked the other one, but I'm interested to see where this goes. I'm especially interested to see like how a system like this was granted on him in the first place, and like in general what's going on with the world.
Right.
Especially with like how these dungeons are formed and like why only like fantasy weapons work against them and like all that kind of stuff. I'm interested to see like what's going on in the world in the background, and I still think they could do something really interesting with it. I just hope they don't fall into like a lot of the other. Like I hope they don't fuck it up, which I could see a lot of ways in which they do, but you know.
So this is how you can tell this doesn't take place in America, because not a single person just thought like, hey, why don't we try crafting some bullets for this shit?
No, they did, and it didn't work.
No, like they were using like regular bullets, but we never see like we never get establishment of like, hey, instead of just forging this into a sword, why don't we just forge them into bullets and just shoot them at people? The other thing is
That's true.
Another part of the world building that kind of annoyed me is they established that these gates can like release giant like killer monsters out into the world, but people are like treating them as like, yeah, no problem, someone should take care of that. Like they're barely even blocked off.
I feel like that's... Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, they showed that like portal like glitching out and about to like release hell on everyone, and people were just like, man, someone should really do something about that.
I feel like that's
right?
pretty. I feel like that's pretty realistic too, because I feel like in real life, once something becomes commonplace, no matter how big or dangerous it seems on the surface, people just get used to it. And like I think probably in this world, like if you're getting all these gates open, but like consistently the hunters are going in and closing them, and it's not really a common occurrence for the monsters to escape, then I can see people just like, starting to treat it like kind of nonchalantly, even though really, if you really think about it, it's a very dangerous thing.
I don't know, man. If I was like walking around, if I was at a store and I saw someone just casually carrying an AK-47, I would be running away from that store really damn quickly.
Well, it's also a world in which they mostly have things like under control, and like enough to the point where it's like, okay, well, a lot of people are doing this because like monetarily it's viable. So like I can see that as like being like a bit like I kind of think that's interesting. To where it's like, oh, it's such a commonplace. It's still like a threat, right? But it's like we've got it, and we can just like it's enough to we could send people out of these dungeons and like defeat them with however they can,
Right.
Like I don't mind it being more commonplace and not always such like a fucking dire situation like it is with other anime. So I think that's like an interesting world to see. Yeah. I do think like I don't mind them using like pretty generic fantasy stuff. Like at first I was like, oh fuck, here are the weird goblins that are going. Meh! But like now that we've switched to like him leveling up and defeating monsters, I feel like that is going to become a little bit more annoying.
Yeah, I generally don't really like the classical fantasy monsters and tropes in general. Like, so that's probably like the one thing about the series I'm gonna have to like, look past that or like tolerate. But yeah. That's also a big part of the reason why. Sorry, I'll let you finish. But that's also the big part of the reason why I don't like a lot of isekai, just because I really just generally don't like the classic fantasy setting.
Yeah. Because
I honestly heard.
Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say I heard one interesting take where people were saying this is where the anime industry is going to be shifting. So instead of it being like, oh, I got teleported into this crazy fantasy world, it's just going to be more like this, where it's just the generic fantasy world being teleported to real life.
Yeah.
I don't think it makes a difference Like, I think if yeah, I don't know. I don't think it really makes any difference because it just really depends on how it's executed, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it worked at first, where it was like, because like you could, it kind of fits in with it. Oh, this being a video game and taking those like stereotypical video game stuff, like, oh, these are a bunch of generic like goblins and other like isekai anime stuff, and then trying to turn that on its head. But I feel like we're going to need to get more interesting monsters if the point of this show is going to be grinding.
Yeah.
And him having to still solve puzzles while grinding.
Okay. I don't know what you mean by interesting, but for me, what I think when I want interesting monsters is more intelligent monsters. And if we don't get more intelligent monsters, then I want the actual enemies, like maybe they can still be fighting monsters, but I want the actual antagonists to be interesting. Like if they're other humans, that's fine. But like pretty much I don't want it to just be like, oh, we have to take down this Godzilla that's like bigger than last week's Godzilla, you know, like I don't really care about that, you know.
Oh man, it's the Super Godzilla. I have to go to the Super Dungeon and grind some more.
He comes across like just a village girl or whatever, but he sees the little tag of how much XP it's worth. And his quest is he has to like wipe out an entire innocent town of like people.
He has to drop
in order to level
girl.
up. Yeah. Just have the quests become more and more fucked up or like ridiculous. Like you have to hang by your feet for like 24 hours.
You have to streak across all of like school in like 20 seconds.
You have to ruin your relationships in 2 minutes.
Be emotionally intimate with your sister. Be emotionally honest with your family for about an entire hour.
I thought you were going to say something different there.
Mine out the gutter, sir.
That could be fun. We'll see what they do though. I'm like interested. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I guess one more thing I'll say, which I kind of alluded to at the beginning, which is I like about how it's incorporated into the real world. It seems like there are a lot of real world stakes involved. Like even like with the government wanting to like get the crystals and that kind of thing. So to me, I like the fact that it seems like there's a bigger plot building up at play. So I'm looking forward to see how that goes. But yeah, so should we just talk about our closing thoughts? Unless you guys have anything else to say.
I'm good.
You want to go for final ratings?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, you go.
I'll give the first episode a 3 out of 10. I'll give the second to fourth episodes, I'd give them a objective, I want to say 8 out of 10 if I'm being super subjective. Or objective. Because I do think, well, the character himself, I think a lot of his motivation could have been a little bit more well established, because we're always being told how much he was made fun of. We were always told like, oh, I need to take care of my mom. But I feel like the fact that we didn't really get to like have a relationship with his mother, or have like seen him go through the whole heartache of being the weakest, I think that kind of like it weakens it a little bit. But I think a lot of the monster set pieces, I think the performance of the character and the emotions shown definitely does get across a lot. So I definitely will say 7.5 okay. 3 out of 10 for the first episode, and for episodes 2 through 4, 7.5.
Okay.
Also, one more thing. Mm-hmm. One more thing I do want to mention. I did not like the side character stuff all that much.
Okay. Which one? The Juhi, the healer?
Most of it. Just like a lot of it, I kind of was more focused on like the central conflict of the whole dungeon incident and him leveling up. That whenever it cut to like the other like stuff going on in the world, I was kind of a little less interested.
Okay.
Yep.
I would give episode 1 an 8 out of 10, episode 2 a 9 out of 10. And I don't know about 3 and 4. I mean, I'll just stick to, since technically this episode's 1 and 2 review, I'll just say those. I don't think there's really much I want to say that I haven't said, but yeah, I really liked it. And regardless of whether we end up reviewing this as like our official review, I'm definitely going to keep watching.
Okay. I would give the first episode a, like, I think 6.5 out of 10. And then I would give the following episodes a 5.5 out of 10. So I think overall it averages to a 6 out of 10. I'm interested to see where it goes. I enjoy it. I liked the first episode the most, but
I've become the Matt of the group.
Wait, would you give episode 1 again?
You gave episode 1. Oh, I gave it a 6.5 out of 10.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see where it goes, and I can see it fucking up pretty easily, but we'll see. That's it.
Okay. All right. So that's been our first impressions of Solo Leveling. Next week, hopefully, maybe we'll be doing our first impressions of Is it called Delicious in Dungeon?
Delicious in Dungeon, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then after that, I mean, the season's already over halfway done, so it barely matters at this point. But after that, we'll be deciding what we'll be watching for the season. So, yeah, stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.